So thank you very much. We've got Grand Stott with us today. There's a bit of a tight gap, so
I'm going to go back a bit just so we can get us all in.
and we are at the Great House today as well. Blackford House, sorry.
Right at the top of Blackford next to Observatory.
Yeah, the observatory. And I've never, for living in Edinburgh most of my life, I've actually never been up here, so it's absolutely gorgeous. I've taken a few photos already, so I'll share that to the group.
So what I love about this spot is because, you know, I would say I live very central in Edinburgh,
yeah.
but literally 3 minutes outside my door, and I've got the view, the hill, the green. It's fantastic, and I love it. I love it here.
I feel as if you're a million miles away from the
Very quickly.
centre.
That's the glory of it. Very quickly. And Edinburgh is obviously blessed with the 7 hills, so you know, wherever you are, there's a chance you're not too far away from a spot like this with a view like that. It's great.
It's gorgeous. So thank you very much for joining. As always, I've done a bit of Googling. But actually, before I started Googling, I remember you from being the DJ at Outer Limits.
Wow.
That's how long ago I remember you from.
That wasn't yesterday.
No, no. Outer Limits was the disco of choice for me.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart when it fire
Burnt
down. Yeah. So
that was a pivotal moment for me in my life. I mean, Coasters as it was during the day, it turned into Outer Limits at night. So, and I worked there as a DJ at Coasters first of all, when it was a roller skating rink for the kids. So basically Saturday afternoons, Saturday nights, weekends, holidays and the like. Hope you can hear us.
I know, yeah. We'll be shouting.
We would sort of DJ for the kids, going round and round in circles on the roller skates, and then chuck them out at 9 o'clock, turn the place around, and then at 10 o'clock you'd open the doors for Outer Limits, and it became this over-18s nightclub. So I was living the life. My first DJing job was actually in Top Man in Princess Street.
Really?
Yeah, I was an in-store DJ in the early sort of to mid-80s in there. And then that was my first real experience of not just DJing, but also kind of sort of radio feel as well. Go around this way. So I kind of gave him off because you were just literally stuck in the cleaner's cupboard down the stairs next to the and the cash tills. And you just spend all Saturday afternoon there playing the tunes and giving a bit of chat and reading out the bargains of the day or whatever. So anyway, so then I got a job doing DJing in Coasters and doing some of the functions upstairs in Bermuda Triangle and satellite clubs. And then I got my big break up to do Outer Limits, which was a massive step up, and that was a really important time. I remember how that came about actually. I was playing snooker with my mate down in Morningside. And of course this was before mobile phones. And what happened was Coasters had been sold. The guy who owned it had sold it because he was opening up, I think it was called the Red Hot Pepper Club round the corner.
Yeah.
And they'd sold it to new owners, and then so they had to quickly get a new team of DJs in for that weekend. So I got moved up from Coasters along with a guy called Tam Blakey and Ross Carey. Ross did the lights, Tam and I were the DJs. And yeah, Outer Limits was fantastic right up until it burnt down, which was a big sort of turning point.
I know.
Because I'd left school that summer and I was wanting to go to drama college. Didn't get into drama college, failed all the auditions. But I thought I'm okay because I'm DJing in nightclubs and I'm earning a fortune.
Yeah.
And then of course it burnt down one Sunday night and everything stopped. Everything. I'd lost all my income. So that's when my mum said, get a proper job. And I joined the police.
And how long were you in the police for?
4 years all told.
Right.
It was almost like 4 years and 4 weeks, pretty much exactly. And because I was kind of moonlighting. I was originally stationed down the borders and I used to moonlight after a back shift in Jedburgh. I'd scoot up the A68 to do a couple hours in the amphitheatre on Lothian Road. So I was still DJing when I wasn't meant to, because back then you weren't allowed to have 2 jobs if you were close.
Right, okay.
So I never really sort of lost that bug of, you know, getting behind the microphone or playing tunes, and then I got an opportunity to work at Radio 4th, and that was it. So I just packed in the police and did my 2 overnight shifts there. That was the start of it.
Because Radio 4th, I think, is what everybody knows you for, eh?
Yeah, it's massive. I mean,
27 years or something?
27 years, all told. I mean, I started there in 1990, left in 2017, and barring a couple of years in the mid-90s to do Kids Telly, it was a massive sort of association with that station, and obviously that really sort of was huge for me, just as a career, and also living and working here. And everything I've got to do, everything I went on to do in my sort of career, my work, has all kind of stemmed from. There's a link to Forth. There's a link back to those days in the radio. So everything's all kind of linked. So it's all kind of tied back to that. So I've got massive soft spot for Radio Forth and the opportunity that it gave me, and the experiences that I got.
So something that well, first of all, when I was Googling, I couldn't believe how much you'd actually done. I'd completely forgotten about Weems Bay 90210. Fully booked.
Fully booked, yeah.
These kind of shows. And then you've done lots of sort of live performances on the Fringe and things like that as well.
Yeah, I mean the kids' telly, that was sort of, that kind of came about. That seemed a sort of natural thing to do, because when I started off in radio, I was only in my early 20s. And then, of course, you work in radio, it's natural that you want to progress to television. And I'd gone from, and I was still working at Radio Forth, but I'd also got a job at Radio Scotland doing a school's education radio programme. So because I was working in the education department of the BBC, inevitably they're making television programmes, and they'll be looking for a presenter. And they went, Grant, have you ever done any telly? I'm like, no. Would you like to do a TV? Yes. And it was kind of like that across the office one day, and I got one programme to do for the education department. That was my first telly, and then I managed to build up a bit of a showreel, send that off to STV, and then got this bonkers Sunday morning kids TV show on STV called Weems Bay, which lasted just over a year. And then that followed on to Fully Booked, which was just 3 amazing years at the BBC, and a dream come true for any presenter. And I don't think anything can really top doing 2.5 hours of kids telly every Saturday and Sunday morning. It's just fantastic. Brilliant fun.
Good. And then obviously you went on to do Scott Sport.
Yeah, Scott Sport. Well, that was probably
was one of the longest.
It was the longest running sports programme, famously, in the Guinness Book of Records. Then Andy Walker and I got our hands on it, and we killed it off after about a season and a half.
Andy did, I was to say that.
Yes, Andy blames me and I blame him. But it was a very simple thing. STV wouldn't pay for the rights to show the football anymore, and then the BBC snapped them all up and got them exclusively. So there was no room to. There was no sports programme on STV anymore. So that kind of all came to a sort of natural end. But my positive, and I said this to you when we met, the big positive for me for that, apart from that experience of working on a football programme, was meeting Andy. And Andy's still a firm friend to this day.
That kind of takes us on to another massive, greatest friend that you had, I think, who unfortunately is no longer with us. So Andy Gray. And,
the wonderful Andy. We're still all kind of coming to terms with that, to be honest with you. We start rehearsing for Panto next week, and that's going to be a tough one. We've obviously known it was coming, and we're just trying to get our heads round it. We're still all trying to come to terms with Andy's death, But we had the press day on Tuesday last week, and we got together. Alan came up from London, Jordan was through there, and Claire, Andy's daughter, was with us, and Nicola, who's the new member of the team. And actually, as much as it was kind of, what's this day going to be like, it was lovely to just sort of be with everybody and go, right, this is their first day together. And it was a nice gentle day. It wasn't too intense. It wasn't, it was just photos and interviews and things. So when we come back together next Monday morning, because that was the bit we were all kind of dreading, what's that morning, because normally Andy's a big part of that morning for us. So it'll still be strange, it'll still be difficult, and then we've got the small task of putting on not just any old panto, but a very special panto for, it's the first one without Andy, and we need to mark his memory and pay tribute to him, so we'll do that. And also it's the first one since COVID, so everyone's desperate to get back to the Kings, and it's the last one at the theatre before the refurb, so so much going on. This is the last one, this is the last panto at the Kings for a number of years. So it's
I'm sure you'll do justice.
Well, we will do our very best. We've got cracking script, so I've just got to learn it.
That's good. So how do you fit everything in? Because you seem to be constantly busy. I know you do lots for different organisations, and you were at a charity event on Friday, was it?
Yeah.
Which I'm actually going to think about for next year. So how do you fit time?
It's just managing my diary. And one thing, funnily enough, about COVID, when the lockdown happened, and my work just kind of fell off a cliff. You know, everything dropped off my diary, obviously, because what I do is in events, and you know, these things stopped happening. The Fringe wasn't happening, the Panto wasn't happening, and the only thing that I had left was my 3 radio shows on Radio Scotland, which was a bit of a godsend. Again, radio being there for me. But then I kind of thought it's actually all right having a Friday and a Saturday night at home, because it wasn't the norm. You know, normally if I'd be going out and getting a tux on and take my clipboard out and going to a hotel and hosting an event, which is great and lovely, but it got to the point where my diary was so busy. I actually sort of took that decision. I thought, right, I'm really going to manage my diary a little bit better, so I get a bit more of that sort of home life and work life balance. I think everybody's kind of felt that a wee bit.
Definitely,
I think everybody's sort of picked up on that, no matter what you do, and you know, be that working from home a little bit more, or you know. So I think that's been an important thing. And then what happened was River City came along at the start of the year, which kind of made that decision for me. Which is basically taking me out of being able to do any of these events now, because my schedule is such, when you're filming, you don't really know what your working hours are until a week or so beforehand. So that's no good if someone says, can I book you in May for a lunch? I don't know if I can do that or not. So I'm not going to be able to take these bookings, but that's fine, and I can just sort of concentrate on the one thing, and it's spinning plates is the way I look upon it, and like being self-employed, you know, it's, you know, if you don't work, you don't earn, and I've learned that over COVID, is, you know, in the harshest possible way, that, you know, as many of us have. So it's a case of, you know, doing what you have to do to earn a living, but then also getting a wee bit of balance where you get a bit of headspace time and go for walks around Blackford.
A star in the making. So obviously not being at drama school, not getting into drama school hasn't done you any harm.
It took me a while to get a job. It took me a while to get a job, but I mean, that's what makes this job on River City so special to me personally, because it's almost like finally getting some sort of, you know, a bit of vindication, if you like, that I finally got there and I finally got to do it, because that was my burning thing. As much as I got to do, and I have done some incredible things over the sort of 30 years that I've been working in the media, and I've done some really great jobs and had some brilliant times, but the one thing that was always at the back of my mind was that I didn't get to do what I always wanted to do when I was a wee boy, and when I was growing up, and I still had this hankering to act and get on the stage first and foremost, and obviously do drama on TV. You continue this way.
Fine, because that's a hill.
That's a hill. Don't do hills on a Sunday morning. Jeez, peeps. So getting that after all this time has just sort of been the icing on the cake, and it's kind of bittersweet, because it's kind of opened up an opportunity because of Andy, and Andy was a big part of opening that door, because he had conversations and dropped my name in with the producers there, and so he's a big part of it. And I talked to him about how great it would be if we could both get if I could get a shot beside him on River City and whatever. Anyway, that didn't happen, but this is the next best thing, and so again, there's just so many things that make this opportunity for me a special one, and I'm absolutely grabbing it with both hands and enjoying every minute.
So you play a rock star father.
I would want to be rock star.
I was going to say an aging, but then I thought about that.
No, you can say aging. So where was I? Sam Spiller has come into River City some 40 odd years after he first met Scarlett. Sam was a young teenage bass player in a band, lived the dream of being a rock and roll star, got kind of close on a couple of occasions, but it just never really happened for him. He's never given up on that dream. But however, the reason he's back in, or the reason he's in River City, Shield Inch, is because of this. 40 years ago, he had one night in Balloch with Scarlett, and Stevie, his son, has managed to trace him after all these years. So I've come in as this big idiot from Edinburgh that supports Hibs. So you can imagine it's a bit of a stretch for my acting powers, you know. So So yeah, but I'm absolutely loving it. It's been a fantastic opportunity, and getting to do what I've always wanted to do. It's just the most satisfying and rewarding thing I've ever done. So I'm delighted. Yeah, it's great.
Good. So you mentioned you couldn't do this walk without mentioning your love, one of the loves of your life anyway. Hibernian Football Club.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting story as well because I've not got your typical football fan story, you know, dressed up as a Hibs player when I was 4 and 5 years old, went to the game on my dad's shoulders. I didn't do any of that. My brother was the footballer, my brother was the Hibs fan. He went to the matches with my dad, and I don't know, it was a brotherly thing, and I rebelled against that. I was like, if you like football, I don't. And it wasn't until the late 80s, early 90s, very early 90s. And at this point, my dad was going to match on his own. My brother was down in London, and so my dad was going to match on his own. So I went, well, I'll go with you. And it's like I looked upon it as a chance to spend a bit of time with my dad every week.
Yeah.
And I thought I could go. I thought I'll just chum my dad to the football. But then very quickly, poof, I got in it. 2 or 3 games in, I was like, oh, this is great, what have I missed? And yeah, kind of fell in love with Hibs. I mean, they were always my team. There was never any argument about that. But I just hadn't gone to see them. So yeah, so Hibs, that's kind of where it starts. So I was a late developer on the football front, but yeah, once I was in, I was all in.
Aye. Hook, line and sinker.
Yeah.
And when they won the Scottish Cup, you were
I was there.
partying.
A very special day, again with my dad. And actually, not just my dad, Pat Stanton, who is something of a Hibs legend.
Yeah.
So I had my dad on one side, Pat Stanton on the other, and I'm watching Hibs win the Scottish Cup. You're like, that's it. Just turn the lights off. That's it. There's nothing's going to top this moment ever. And I firmly believe that. It's like, you know, Hibs could win the Scottish Cup the next 3 years running. It's obviously not going to happen, but they could do it, and it will never, ever, ever be special as the 21st of May 2016, because it just meant so much. And yeah, I'll never forget that day. And I'll be there with my wife because it was her birthday. Oh. Yeah, very forgiving wife.
Just as well.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law is the biggest Hibs fan I know. He goes to, I don't know if it's just he goes for a jolly, but all the
away
even
games.
The friendlies away. Yeah, because I think Dubai was one of the last ones. So, one of the other things that I was going to ask you is if you could nominate somebody to walk with me, and I'll try and get my technical skills up.
Well, I will put you with another technophobe, and as we're approaching this time of year, I'm going to nominate my good pal Alan Stewart.
Oh, really?
He's obviously going to be in town for a couple of months, and Alan is a big walker. He likes his walks every day. Cool. So I don't think it'll take too much persuasion for you to tag along, and he can maybe meet you and take you around the meadows or something like that.
Yeah. God, Alan Stewart, he's been in, like, he's almost been part of the family. If you're
he has
Scottish.
been. Well, this is another great thing that he's now my mate, because, and the same with Andy, because I grew up watching these guys on telly in the 80s, you know, and Alan's now one of my dearest pals, and so to work with him as closely as I do, as often as I do, is it's a real sort of pinch me moment kind of thing as well. So yeah, doing the panto every Christmas for him is an absolute. So he will no doubt give you his chat, because he's got a great career, because, you know, you think about it, when he kind of burst on the scene in the 70s, he was a young man back then. So he's kind of seen show business, if you like, from the sort of golden age of show business in the 1970s, and the Palladium, and doing the Royal Variety Performance and all these kind of things. He's done all that. And then the sort of TV game shows through the 80s, and then, you know, obviously the world of panto over the last. So he's got hundreds of stories. Not all of them broadcastable, not all of them suitable for the internet, but he will no doubt share some of them with you.
Good, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. So it's been an absolute pleasure walking with you.
No, it's been lovely, and I said this when I first met you. This is my neighbourhood at Blackford, and I don't do it enough. I don't come out for a walk enough, and during lockdown we did. You know, that was part of our daily routine. We were allowed out for a walk. So we were lucky to have this on our doorstep at the golf club, but I don't do it enough. So this gave me a nice excuse to get up, get dressed, get up and get out and go for a walk around around the pond and around the hill. So.
Yeah, and I'll definitely be back with my husband and
Yeah,
the dogs
it's a great
because it's
spot.
gorgeous.
It's
Yeah.
just unfolds and
Yeah.
brilliant.
So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And good luck with
Thank you very
everything in your
much.
future.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.